Today, we're going to take a look at the tape measure and some tips and tricks while using one. The first thing I want to note is you're going to notice that the end of your tape measure wiggles forward and backward, and that movement is actually a 1/16 of an inch. And what that does is if you hook it on the edge of a board and you measure, it's going to be the correct measurement. But if you butt it up against a wall or something, now you have to take into account the thickness of that tip, which is a 1/16 of an inch. And that is why this wiggles, so that you don't have to subtract 1/16 of an inch from your measurement. Next thing I want to note is you're going to see these red squares every 16 inches, and that is for marking out your wall studs. Along with that, if you move down a bit, you're going to see 19 3/16 has this little black diamond, and that is just for another engineered spacing. So your standard spacing is 12 inches, 16 inches, 19 3/16 inches, and 24 inches. So if you multiply the 12 by 8, that's 16 by 6, the 19 3/16 by 5, and the 24 by 4, you're going to find that they all come out to 96, and that is the length of a plywood, so 8 feet. Now another tip when measuring with a tape measure, let's say that we have 31.5 inches and we need to subtract 6 3/8. What I do is I fold this tape measure in half and I line it up with my 31.5. I look to see where my 6 3/8 ends up, and that gives me 25 1/8. Also on the tape measure, some of them have this, but not all of them. It'll tell you the measurement of the tape measure itself. So in this case, it's 2 3/4. So instead of bending your tape measure, you can actually butt this up, and wherever it ends up, so if it ends up at, let's say 9 inches, then you just add the 2 3/4. So it's actually 11 3/4 inches where you're going to cut your board. Now another tip is, let's say that you measure something and it's 12.5 inches and you want to know what a quarter of that is. You take that 12.5 and divide it by 4. You're going to get 3.125. You take that 0.125, you multiply it by 16, and you'll see that it's 2/16, which is also 1/8. And if you want to double check this, go 1 divided by 8, and you'll see you get 0.125. If we take this board and we have no idea what the width is, we can grab, let's say 8, grab at the 8 inches, line up your 8 inches and hold it on an angle, and then you're just going to mark it 4 inches. You're going to slide down a bit, do the same, and then if you go straight across there and draw your line, you have a line perfectly in the center of this board. You can do the same thing if you want to do it in thirds. So let's say we go to 9 inches, we take a mark at the 3 and a mark at the 6, we'll slide down a bit, do the same thing, and again, draw your lines, and now your board is in thirds. And lastly, if you want to do it in quarters, then let's say we go back to the 8, you mark out your 2, your 4, and your 6, slide down a bit, do the same thing, again, draw your lines, now your board is in quarters. That's all the tips I have for using a tape measure. If anybody has any other tips or tricks that they'd like to share, then please leave them in the comments down below. Other than that, I hope that you possibly learned something new in this video, and I hope that you enjoyed it. See you in the next one.